Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for coming. Professor Colorusso, thank you for joining us. I am Brian Wagner. I am the leader of Team Treble Tones. With me is Marina Lewis. She is in charge of presenting our primary research. Sergio Vargas, he's in charge of presenting our secondary research. Emily Marshall is presenting our recommendations. And then Gunnar is going to be presenting our conclusions, and then I will recap and give some final recommendations and conclusions. Our primary purpose, the Treble Tones, we were investigating the marketing techniques of the music department and what works, what doesn't work, and what we can do to improve them. Primary research, we conducted a survey. We designed it specifically to give us an overall view of what worked, what didn't. We didn't really go into a lot of the in-depth research because we feel that that could be something that can expand on in the future. Secondary research, we just did the same thing as most of the groups. We compared our university's music department to those of other universities based on psychodemographics and size, things of that nature. And there were some few interviews that were conducted, just some simple question and answer things done about some marketing rules on the university. The goals of our report, we wanted to figure out how effective the marketing attempts are. We wanted to present some data that supported our findings and what our recommendations are. And again, ways to improve change or things that should continue to happen or we didn't even miss that we didn't realize were happening. And then to continue offering our assistance on how we can continue making things better for you guys. And with that, I would like to present Marina to present the primary research.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon. As Brian said, I'm presenting the primary research today. Basically, we passed out a survey to a total of 187 students on campus. Our population size was about 4,425 people, which is the approximate number of students, undergrad students and faculty on the campus. Our survey consisted of 10 total questions, 7 of which were multiple choice about like how many music events have you attended and like are you aware of what's going on, have you seen posters, stuff like that. And then 3 of them were to list what would be most effective from best to worst, like 1, like Facebook would be the best way to reach you, or 2, email, and so forth. What we found was that the majority of people have not attended a single music event on campus. About 50% of the population hasn't. The reason because of this is that they don't really know about the events. They haven't seen the posters, or if they have, they haven't taken the time to like write down the dates and like plan to go to them. It hasn't really registered that they, it's a big thing on campus. When asked what would be the best way to communicate with students between Facebook, posters, or email, they all said, well, not all, but the majority of them said Facebook would be the best way to communicate because posters, there's a ton of posters on campus and they don't necessarily stand out as much as something on Facebook would. They also said that as incentives to go to music events, free food and extra credit for their classes would be a good way to promote interest in the events. Now I'm going to pass it to Sergio, who's going to talk about our secondary research.
Good afternoon. My name is Sergio, and I will be focusing on the secondary research. Before we present our secondary research, we think it was important to speak about the universities used for the research. We used 2 universities that are in the state of Texas and a university in California to see and try to compare in-state and out-of-state universities to see the difference. All these 3 schools are state-owned and have student bodies that are over 20,000 students. So their universities are a little bit bigger than San Edward's. But we think that because San Edward's is growing in size by year, it was good to investigate them. The main thing we found from the 3 universities is that all 3 schools have a website dedicated only to the music departments. Where San Edward's music department webpage is only an extension of the main website. For UT, we also found that they have in their website they have an online sales link where you can access where you can buy tickets online for upcoming events on campus, and they also have information about the events and upcoming. For Texas Tech University, which is in Lubbock, Texas. we found that they have an ongoing news and events chart that is continuously updating itself with with events and upcoming, and we think this could be very, very important for St. Edwards. As for University of Berkeley in California, despite they had small differences as how they advertised and how they market themselves, they were very similar to the other two universities used for this research. They had an email list, an ongoing email list that sends out weekly updates to students and people in general who are who are involved in the music department. And the other thing is that they also have a news and events chart as Texas Tech, and this is our secondary research findings. Thank you. Now Emily's going to talk to you about our findings and conclusions.
So hi, I'm Emily Marshall. I'll be presenting our findings and conclusions from our secondary and primary research. So from our primary research, as Marina said, we found that low attendance is caused basically because people just don't know about events. And people weren't noticing the advertisements on campus because of their placement. So the bulletin boards on campus aren't as effective because usually students will just walk past them on their way to class. We also found that Facebook is the best way to advertise to students. It'll target the most people, and people are usually on Facebook every day. Also, free food and extra credit are the top incentives for people to come to events. Extra credit would be something where the music department could work with a course, and students could get extra credit for the course by going to an event. Secondary research, we found that websites were dedicated to music departments at other schools. They just had a single website, whereas with St. Ed's, it's kind of tricky to find. You click through different links, and on the websites, they also had a news and event chart, and the single news and event chart made it really easy to see when and where the events are taking place. And then also they had, students could sign up for an email list that sent them weekly updates with news and events of the music departments. Now I'm going to hand it over to Gunnar to discuss our recommendations.
Thanks, Emily. Hi everyone, I'm Gunnar McDonald, and I'm going to go over the recommendations today. So basically, as Emily stated earlier, the extra credit for events is a major factor to students. I mean, who doesn't want extra credit? These would go perfect with our music elective classes and our COLF classes. One website for the entire music department. You know, if you can't get to what you're trying to get to in 3 clicks, a lot of students showed that they would quit looking for it and searching for it. So make it easy, make it user-friendly for the students. Improve advertising to reach target market. Basically, bulletin boards showed to be a lot more, I guess, better for advertising to students. They saw bulletin boards a lot more than they did posters on like cluttered, walls. So bulletin boards were a lot better than posters. We definitely need to increase the knowledge by bulletin boards, less posters in cluttered areas, and advertisement design. Simple, basic letters instead of all this color and stuff that kind of distracts from the message. We want clear, enticing letters, so a student walks by, they don't see all this red, green, cluttered. We want basic messages, get the point across. Music event on Saturday, okay. And then also, we wanted to have more frequent posts on Facebook. The students 18 to 21, the undergraduate students, they're so hectic lifestyles. We need to keep these students updated frequently with more frequent posts about events and upcoming events. And to pass it off to Brian Wagner for the conclusion.
Thank you, Gunnar. It's not quick. There we go. Got it. All right. So we have discovered that there is an internal demand. Obviously, there are students that are participating in the ensembles, that are taking the music classes. There are who've taken applied voice, applied instrumentation, applied instrument lessons, all that. There's an internal demand for the people. to participate. What there is not a demand of is the external demand, the people to come to the concerts, because they don't know. They don't know because of ineffective advertising. Not that it's not being done, it's just not being done in a way that is most conducive to quick, easy information and consistent information. And the external demand we primarily discovered can be done through social media. Through the comparisons, we chose to do the larger universities because if you set yourself up for that growth through, establishing a music department page, even though we're nowhere near being that large at this point, if you set yourself up for that future, all you can do is grow. If you set yourself up in small incremental stages, it's going to be more difficult to continue that growth process. And that is one of the reasons why we actually looked at the larger universities. As we discovered, enticing people to come with food and extra credit is a form of guerrilla marketing. Guerrilla marketing is a point where you create a conversation by offering something that's not expected. And by doing that, we feel that it will definitely increase concert attendance, and it will, most importantly, it will start that conversation for people to be aware of what's going on within the music department. Like I said, it's there. It just can be done more actively. The marketing can be done more actively than passively. And then, like I said, active marketing will increase the patronage. So I'm going to leave that to question and answers, but thank you, Joey, for coming, for letting us work on this for you. It's been a pleasure of ours. This team's worked really hard to get this information together. And anybody have any questions for us?